So hello and welcome everyone to Retrospective Open Access Publishing with IGI Global. We thank you for being here with us today. My name is Marissa Masari and I'm the Open Access Publishing Coordinator here at IGI Global. Today I'm also joined by my colleagues Lindsay Wertman, who just spoke, President of IGI Global, as well as Matthew Philp, Editorial Assistant for IGI Global's Open Access Division. As we begin today, I just ask that all mics stay muted as this will be recorded and just save all questions until the end. And I'm going to hand it over to Lindsay now.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, good evening, depending on what the time differences are. We appreciate you joining us today, and we are going to be talking a little bit about just what exactly retrospective open access is and just some of the benefits and how to go about executing it for your work. So in order to understand retrospective open access, I am going to start really from the basic foundation, and that is really what is open access exactly. There's a lot of terms spinning around right now among the academic community. You've got open science, and then you're hearing a little bit about open research, open access. Open access is really a terminology just within open science, the broader movement. And it's really just about, making peer-reviewed scholarly research, whether it be journal articles, book chapters, case studies, full books, any literature really freely available online without any paywalls or login restrictions. And the work is published under a Creative Commons license, as opposed to what you traditionally see with copyright restrictions, where the publisher only has the right to distribute, sell, etc. the work. The Creative Commons licensing really allows those rights to reside with the authors of the work. In terms of common types, a lot of the types of open access that you'll see floating around, green open access, which basically follows traditional publishing model, but it's a self-archiving by the authors to an institutional or subject repository. For us, we have our fair use policies that allow basically standard access work to be placed on personal websites, institutional repositories, without having to go through too many hoops to do that. For hybrid open access, journals and books both tend to publish under this model. Hybrid open access basically just means that the authors are able to make the choice upon submission whether or not they wish to pursue standard access or open access for their work. And then the open access, of course, would have a processing charge associated later in the process following the peer review. Gold open access means that there is not an option. All work is being published under open access. So for a book, it would be all of the chapters in the book. For a journal, it would be all the articles. The funding is typically being paid by each of the individual authors for each of their respective papers. Diamond Platinum open access basically just means that there's that full funding support. It means that there's some sort of sponsorship going towards the full book, a full journal, which means that that payment is coming, whether it be from multiple institutions or societies, but it is covering all of the APCs for article processing charges, chapter processing charges, etc., so that the authors aren't having to. The full book or the full journal is covered. And all of the work would be published then fully under open access. Next slide, please. So then what is retrospective open access and how does it fall into this arena of terminology? So effectively, retrospective is basically just meaning that you are going back in time. You are taking submissions, whether it be something you published 2 months ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, and opting to take what was originally published under standard access with a paywall associated with it to opening it up then to open access. So no longer behind any login restrictions, paywalls of any kind, subscription fees, that would all go. So we do, at IGI Global, we do offer a program where you can take any of your previously published work and flip it from that traditional publishing model under standard access to open access and have the copyright for the work basically transferred back to you from us, the publisher. So the work would then, moving forward, be released under a Creative Commons license. And it's really quite a simple process, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And it does really maximize the visibility of your work, which is key in having that ability to freely distribute the work as you please, which I'll go into in a little bit as well. So the types of retrospective open access. So looking at your past published work, you can think about really any work you've published with IGI Global. So whether it be a journal article, a book chapter, authored or edited monograph, a casebook, a handbook of research, an encyclopedia. If it was a journal that you led and you want to possibly open up a full volume year, a lot of our journals and all of our journals publish under gold or platinum now, but there are quite a few that have multiple volume years that are still behind closed standard access. So opening up full volume years to open access is an option. Special issues, if you guest edited a special issue in the past, it could be 5 articles in that special issue, it could be 6 or 7. Opening up that entire special issue obviously is going to help with citation impact. Next slide, please. So the benefits of converting work to open access. So we've talked a little bit about just looking at the rights, looking at that transferring from the copyright to the Creative Commons licensing. But what does this all really mean? So as we said, copyright returned to the authors, it's converted to that Creative Commons licensing. Okay, you now have full right to do with it really what you please. Content becomes free to access by researchers all over the world. So that helps with that inclusivity aspect of it doesn't matter if their library has the budget, it doesn't matter if their institution has the budget for the research, it doesn't matter if they themselves, it's free to access by everyone. Very inclusive. And that work can be deposited in any repository and any website worldwide. So the opportunities are truly endless for where all your research can end up down the line, given this level of flexibility with the rights. Greater sharing power and discoverability for the authors and editors, which also means greater recognition for their institutions as well. The notoriety that authors receive is tremendous. The more the work gets cited out, the more the work is shared in social media platforms. That work ultimately has the opportunity to go viral. Higher download rates. We have seen statistically that roughly 89% higher download rates for content that can be openly accessible. Increased citation rates and indexing potential. Something that we have in speaking with the indices that we work with, they're not weighing open access content against standard access content. There's no sort of special consideration with the understanding that open content is more open and rightfully is going to get more citations. They're purely looking at the merit of the research, the quality, and the citation metrics. Open access content is going to win every time with citation metrics because the entire research community can access that work. Where closed access, it's only going to be the libraries that are subscribing. It's only going to be the researchers that have been able to purchase the publication. The contents of the unlocked work can be utilized in future publications and teaching materials, which is another benefit. If you want to put together course packs, if you want to collaborate with other researchers to compile a compendium of different research works, you can use those full chapters, a full book, without having to purchase any sort of reuse rights. And it opens further opportunities for additional research collaborations. By having your work out there, other authors can really see what you're doing, what you're working on, and that can create some good networking opportunities down the line. Affordable open access conversion fees, definitely a benefit is that when you're publishing new works in open access publications, you're going to be paying whatever that APC or CPC is at the time, article processing charge, chapter processing charge. When you do a retrospective conversion, you are having the benefit of a reduced open access processing fee because what you're really paying for is of course, the work is now going to be openly accessible. So there's no longer a paywall that the publisher is securing, but there is less overhead that is having to be covered because of the fact that the work has been collecting revenue for a period of time, whether as part of a book or a subscription. So we are able to decrease those processing charges a bit because of that. And the institution's funding conversions, just an important note is that if an author or an editor of a book receives some level of funding support, we do make sure that that is adequately being portrayed, whether it be in the paper or on a website for publication or any promotional materials. So we do ensure that things like press releases and that logos and branding and things like that are highly visible, because we do want to ensure that the institution or association or society or even a corporation is getting that notoriety for having supported the open dissemination of content. Next slide. So I do want to talk a little bit about a case of a successful journal conversion to open access. So we have seen over the last year or so multiple instances of retrospective conversions. We've seen them on the paper level, we've seen them on the full publication level. All of our journals have at this point converted to open access, whether it be a year or two ago or some that are just converting now in this upcoming new year. The Journal of Organizational and End User Computing is one such example where the journal did convert. It happened around, it was 2021 that this journal converted. And then in addition, there was a year of work converted to open access as well, retrospectively. And so in looking at what that has done for the journal, not just the conversion to receiving new work being published under open access, but also converting an entire volume year worth of content to open access. You can see here just what has happened with the citation metrics. The impact factor has bumped from the period of 2020 before the conversion from a 1.8 to now it is sitting at a 7.4. The number of published articles has increased, which makes sense. The higher the impact, the more individuals want to publish, the more quality work coming through. The number of articles has increased from 23 published in 2020 to now 85 sitting in 2022. And the citation rates, we had total cites 304 before the conversion. And now after the conversion, the total cites, the citation rate has reached over 1,000. So that just shows how visible this work is, how frequently it's being used. And this journal is currently indexed in one of the Web of Science flagship indices, among other prominent indices. Next slide, please. And then this is just a breakdown of the conversion success. And in addition, we have a journal, the Journal of Global Information Management, that saw comparable success as well. It has steadily increased from an impact factor in 2020 of 1.2 to 3.4. And similarly, this was a journal that had converted to open access and also had converted retrospectively numerous articles as well, which has served the journal well in increasing its impact. Now, Marissa is going to talk a little bit about just what that process looks like, because we've talked about the benefits of it, what's in it for you as the researcher, but really just how to go about converting, what the pricing looks like to convert different types of work, and then what the funding, some of the different angles you can take with securing funding for these activities. So Marissa, I'm going to pass it back over to you.
Okay. So yes, the second half, we'll be talking about the conversion process, pricing, and funding for retrospective open access. So at IGI Global, we try to make the retrospective OA publishing program as simple as possible for authors and editors. So we focus on 4 steps from start to finish to convert standard publications to open access. So once an editor or an author is aware that they can convert their work and do show that interest in converting their work, they can begin the conversation with our staff, who will then provide them with any materials or answer any questions that may be outstanding, or answer any questions of something they don't understand in the process. And then once they choose which of their previously published works they would like to convert to open access, they can let us know and proceed to pay the OA processing charge. From there, our production teams will begin working on converting that work to open access. So that standard copyright language will change to the open access copyright language, and then it'll be re-imported to our website and our platforms as an open access work. And after that re-importation, the work will be freely available to share with colleagues, the research community, repositories, you name it, it can be shared. And because that work is now open access, as mentioned before, it will benefit from higher discoverability and citation impacts. And as just stated, we do try to make the process of converting work very convenient, especially for individual book chapters and journal articles. So for the chapters and articles, our authors can log into their author portal, which is available on our main webpage. And once they're logged into that portal, they can access their personal library. So you can see the personal library right here. And once in that personal library, the author can select the work that they would like to convert and add and pay for it in the shopping cart. So you can see over to the right here, this is just an example of what a shopping cart would look like. So any of your previously published works would be in here. You can go down through, select the ones you would like to convert, and then proceed. And if you are interested in this opportunity and for some reason you can't find the work you're looking for that you would like to convert, please don't hesitate to reach out to us so we can get that resolved for you and move it along the process and get that work converted for you. So because the work, the open access work is no longer behind a paywall collecting that revenue, the OA processing charges, whether it be the article processing charge, the chapter processing charge, or for full books, the book processing charge, those will be implemented to help support the overhead costs that went into producing the work. So our retrospective OA pricing is based off the copyright or volume year in which the work was originally published, specifically for book chapters and journal articles. So for example, the further back the copyright goes, the lower the OA processing charge is going to be, say, versus a more recent publication like 2021. So the 2021 publication would have a slightly higher APC or CPC. And then for full book conversions to open access, the size of the publication, so the word count and any revenue that's already been secured from that publication would also be factored into the pricing to convert the full book. We also are currently offering an extra 20% discount off our retrospective pricing. And then just down below here, you can kind of see the ranges for the different publications for the journals, for the articles, chapters, and books. So the journal articles range from $265 to $2,500. Our book chapters start at $700 and go up to $2,300. And then for full books, from $3,000 to $30,000, just depending on the size and the revenue already generated for that book. And so as mentioned on the last slide, converting previously published work to open access does come with those processing charges, although deeply discounted from the original processing charges. So there are many different ways to secure funding when looking to convert previously published research to open access, as it does not need to be paid by a single funding body. And these funding options can include contributor funding and discounted options. So IGI Global authors do have the option of applying any royalties or honorariums they earned on their published works towards that amount of converting the work to open access, whether it be that article, chapter, or full book. There's also the option of crowdfunding. So the concept of crowdfunding is applied most often to full books, but it can also be used for individual articles and the chapter level publications. So multiple funders can support the retrospective opening of a publication so that work can be converted to open access. And crowdfunding can include multiple funding bodies such as a university or institution, any national funding bodies, government funding, and also self-funding from the author or editor. And there are also a number of crowd funding platforms that are available for authors and editors to use that can generate the funding for those kinds of conversion projects. Um, and just a few examples included Kickstarter and Unglue It, which are specifically designed to engage readers and provide funding support for those publications. And then there's just a few other funding options. IGI Global does offer an extensive list on our open access funding resources webpage, which just gives a lot of options for those authors and editors who are looking for funding for their open access work. So OA books with IGI Global and successful funding. So currently we do have 2 full OA books published that have received open access funding through 2 different means. So our first book, The Handbook of Research on the Global View of Open Access and Scholarly Communications, this book was published under Platinum Open Access, so the entire book is open access, freely available, and that was published through IGI Global's Transformative Open Access Initiative in association with the University of North Texas, USA. So because the University of North Texas invested in IGI Global's e-collections, there was a portion of that investment that was able to go towards publishing this book as open access. Additionally, our second full open access book, New Models of Higher Education, was also published Platinum Open Access through a successful crowdfunding opportunity and sponsorship from the Lumina Foundation and Walmart. So both editors of this book, Dr. Brower and Dr. Speck-Morbin, worked with these foundations in order to receive funding to publish their book as open access. And additionally, just wanted to take a few moments to inform you of the Association of Global Open Science and Research, AGOSR for short. So Lindsay can speak more on what AGOSR brings to the table for OA publishing and research.
Yes, so can everyone hear me okay, I hope? Yes. So what we also wanted to cover is, in the motion that we are taking to support more visibility for research and greater accessibility, in addition to a variety of partnerships that we have going right now with a variety of organizations and platforms, we have also opted to start our own association. So the Association of Global Open Science and Research, we are a founding member of the association. We are currently working to bring researchers, libraries, publishing partners on to support with support us in our mission, and also support with ensuring that we can provide open access content to individuals from all over the world. And it's really meant to be an inclusive approach, just bringing everyone together, publishers not competing against one another, but rather working together for the benefit of the academic community, researchers being able to benefit from seeing their colleagues' work, being placed into this repository that we're working on. Librarians, having another channel to, be able to have their patrons access open access research. So there is a repository that coincides, and we, as a publisher, any work that is published under open access with us, whether it be retrospectively or wholly new open access submissions moving through, they will all ultimately be placed in this open access repository, just to ensure that authors have that added benefit of another repository where they can get visibility for their work. And future plans include, a lot of citation metrics and usage metrics that will come into play, so that authors have that benefit of seeing, what's happening with their work. We are in talks with a lot of major publishers right now who have expressed some interest in getting involved and having their published work also included in this repository. So we're really excited about it, and we thought it was worthy of mentioning, since it does coincide with some of the other open access initiatives that we're taking right now. But it is really important towards the inclusivity of researchers, the accessibility of content, and really just driving all of the pillars that we're really pushing right now for open access. And then I think we're at about a half-hour mark here, and we do have plenty of time for questions. So we were going to take a look and see if anyone had any questions, and it can be about anything from retrospective to the open access movement in general. We would love to hear any questions that anyone has.
And you can send them through the chat, or if you want to unmute, you can just ask us directly as well.
So I see a question that came in. How about the original publisher of the work? Do they have to agree for OA? So I'm going to answer that in a couple different ways. So the first one is, for us, for our retrospective program, it would only be chapters, articles, books published by us that we would retrospectively convert. In terms of any sourced material in the books or the chapters, that would all be part of the component of the chapter. We wouldn't have to seek permissions from different, sources or anything like that. We do like to ensure that if an editor, for instance, comes to us and says, I want to open my entire book, and you have all of these contributing authors then that have chapters within that would be impacted, we do like to make those authors aware that this is happening, that the copyright is going to be released back to them. It'll be published under Creative Commons. It is now going to be open access, which I want to say 98% of the time they're all fine with it. It usually, if anything, that additional percentage is just people that are confused by it. But for us, it would just be open access work published by us, IGI Global, as the publisher. And then through the AGOSR, the association that we are starting, we would make sure that if a researcher comes to us and says, we would like to put our work in the repository, we would absolutely go through the publisher and just make sure that they're aware of what's transpiring here. Especially if it's an author that needs to convert their work to open access, the publisher would have to handle all of that.
Okay, any other questions?
And another item too, just in terms of the pricing, I mean, you will see the price for the retrospective on the paper level in your personal library. So that is really straightforward. And discounts can be applied and all of that. The book level and the book level quoting and the journal special issue and journal volume year quoting, it is a quoting process. So what we would do is we would recommend that you reach out to open access admin at igiglobal.com, which we will have that information for you. You can reach out to that email and then basically request a quote. You just give the book title that you wish to convert, or if it's a journal volume year or a special issue, just some title information for us. And then we can let you know roughly how much it would cost. I would like to know a little more about the possibility of converting an individual chapter to OA, especially about the pricing criteria. So we do have a table structure that we use for the individual chapter pricing, which in the follow-up, Marissa, I think it'd be a great idea to send over in a follow-up to this presentation. We can send what those tables look like so that you know exactly how much the APC would be for a specific journal article or a specific book chapter. But it is like we said, based on copyright year. So when you're getting into older copyright years, back to say 2018, 2017, that cost is going to gradually decrease the older the publication gets, because at that point the book would have recouped much of the cost for producing the work. And so we are able to discount it more deeply the older the publication gets. So we can send those table structures over to everyone as a follow-up to the session so that you can get a sense of whatever chapter or article you're looking at, how much that would be. And then, as I said, in your personal library, you should see that chapter coming up as an option to convert with the pricing in there. But if for any reason you're not, which we have heard from a few authors that they're not seeing it, to just please let us know so we can make sure that it's assigned in there and that you're seeing what you're supposed to be seeing and that you get the information that you need. And you can always just let us know if you're having problems. I mean, we certainly don't want you to rely solely on the personal library and the online portal. You're welcome to just come to us and we can maneuver it for you as well. You don't have to necessarily rely on that online platform. Is there anyone on here who has had work previously converted, with whether it be with other publishers, or if you've maybe had a chapter converted, now you're thinking about an article or anything like that? I don't think I see any more questions coming in.
I'm not seeing any more.
Okay.
So if there are no further questions, or if you do have any questions that you would think of, after this session is over, my contact details are here, my email. If you would just like to contact our open access team for a general inquiry, the open access email is here as well, openaccessadmin@igiglobal.com. We'd be more than happy to assist you with anything that you may need, any questions you may have.
And we will follow up with the PowerPoint slides, a recording of today's presentation, as well as the pricing charts on the chapter processing charge and article processing charge level, just so that you have that more detailed information to follow up. And if you're interested in converting your work, don't hesitate reaching out. Personal library and the online portal is one way. And, of course, just reaching out to us directly, we're happy to facilitate. Marissa can also include, we have a really great blog post that kind of covers that more in-depth process of how to go about it in your online portal that she can share out as well, just so that you have that quick reference guide. Well, thank you everyone for joining. It looks like we actually did not go over on time, and we hope that everyone has a wonderful afternoon or evening or what have you, and a wonderful holiday season.
Thank you.